We're speaking with Felecia Hatcher of Feverish Pops and Code Fever. Your background is in technology, so I want you to kind of talk about that a bit, and then talk about your more recent venture, which is Code Fever.
Okay, absolutely. So most people, I think, are surprised when I'm like, hey, we got this, we're doing all this tech stuff and we're trying to promote it here in South Florida. And I often tell people you should really be more surprised that I ever ended up in a food business than doing anything in technology, because that's where my background was, tech and marketing. Marketing for a lot of tech companies. That's what I did prior to starting Feverish. And with that background and that experience really helped us to catapult Feverish to where it is and the popularity that we got, but then also the systems of kind of running the back end of Feverish. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I love promoting entrepreneurship, and I know here in South Florida, that's really what's going to save our community. Technology allows us to build faster and cheaper than we've ever been before. And right now what we're trying to do is lay the foundation, starting with our youth, so we can really be building and being a part of the ecosystem that's being built.
Okay, so it sounds like you're kind of merging technology and entrepreneurship, not solely focused on either.
You have to.
Okay.
You know, because what good is teaching someone about technology if you don't tell them, you don't show them how to actually be able to monetize that and monetize it now, because you know you have 14-year-olds over in the Bay Area that are making $50,000 and $60,000 off of apps that they build. So, and our kids should not be any different, but they need to be taught both at the same time.
Okay, and so you're doing that in a lot of your Code Fever workshops?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do anywhere from what we call build a startup in a day, which goes through coding training as well as entrepreneurship training, pitch training, you name it. At the end of the day, they've actually built a tangible, workable prototype, and then they're pitching it for money. We just finished up a program with Miami Gardens yesterday, and the kids won a $250 cash prize, which I'm super excited about. And the winning team actually, called Z's Incorporated, and their bag was like I believe called the goodie bag, but it was a backpack that would massage your back as you're walking.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And it was crazy, you know, funny, creative, cool. And this is something that they created, you know, within four weeks, and they had a prototype to be able to show in front of the judges, but just stretching their minds and stretching their creativity, and then also showing them what is possible.
Absolutely.
So, you know, and that was a 4-week program. So anywhere from the one-day startup in a day all the way to summer camps, and then a partnership with CARES Mentoring that has brought us into Broward County schools. That has been really cool too.
Okay, so what's CARES Mentoring? Is that you team up your
so CARES Mentoring is an organization that was started by Susan Taylor, who was a former editor-in-chief at Essence Magazine. And it's a group mentoring program with pockets like, chapters all across the United States. So in schools, also in alternative schools, but then also out in community doing events, but it's all around a wellness kind of group mentoring model. So not only do they focus on education, but they focus on wellness, creativity, and then exposure. So, you know, you're bringing kids down to Art Basel where they normally wouldn't be, and just kind of stretching them and putting them in environments that are really going to help them grow, not as just students, but then also leaders in our community. It's a really amazing organization.
Sounds like it.
Tracy, you know, she runs it. It's phenomenal, and it's been a really great partnership for us to get Code Fever into the public schools here, and then also the alternative schools.
Wow, that sounds so exciting. Yeah. That sounds so exciting. Then I want to go back and ask you too about you mentioned the prototype that was used. So you have a day workshop to the 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So along that 4 weeks, they had to have this Proto Shop designed. So do you provide that type of mentorship as well? Like these are the manufacturers that you can pitch your idea to, or how does that work?
So with what we're doing, it's really the kids have to get creative with their own two hands.
Okay.
As far as resources, we bring in the people that need to make it happen.
Okay.
But then also we show them how to be resourceful, because that's the other part of, I think, our students don't understand to that effect. So, you know, within the next few weeks, we'll be getting a 3D printer, so they'll be actually able to, you know, mock up and bring it, physically bring it to life. But what I've learned is, you know, we're in a 140 character society.
Yes.
So no longer can we tell a kid, hey, if you want to start a business, come take this business course and all they're going to do is work on a business plan. They're going to lose, whatever interest that they had in running a business, and it's much easier to go fill out an application because that's one page as opposed to like a 30 or 40 page business plan. So you have to do things that give them some sort of instant gratification. You have to do things that when you're asking them to come up with ideas, they can actually see their ideas come to life. And I think that's the beauty of a strong focus on STEM now, is that they can literally start building things with their hands where they haven't been taught to do those things before. So they get the resourcefulness. They learn grit. They learn how to, hey, I want to get a backpack. I'm going to find this here. I'm going to find this here. And I'm going to put this together. And then now I'm paired with the people that actually show me how to do it in a professional way that I can actually go and pitch to investors, pitch to mentors, and actually sell in the market, which is very important. But we have that instant gratification part of them being able to have a workable prototype and something that they can touch, taste, and feel is really important.
Nice, very nice. On another front, I know we just came off of the big technology conference in Miami. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that and get your thoughts on how Code Fever kind of fits into, or the efforts of Code Fever, how it fits into the general, I guess, regional initiative that this tech conference kind of covered.
So Emerge America was huge. Like, it really encompassed the whole entire, like, Miami. You know? There were parties going on. There was the conference. I didn't get a chance to stay there for the whole time because I was out of town for most of it, but the part that I was at, I was really excited about. What that means for the community is we definitely have to keep the momentum going. What that means exactly for the Black and Caribbean community, that means that we need to have a bigger part of it. And if I could say anything, that part was missing. And it's kind of twofold. It's an outreach problem from any conference that comes here. But then it's also us making sure that just because it doesn't say it's for Blacks or it's for Caribbean, that doesn't mean that we don't show up and still be able to get the value that a conference like that has to offer. And that's what we're working on with Code Fever, but then even just our meetup group, Black Tech Miami. It's something simple. It's just like, hey, I'm going somewhere. Let's meet up there together. So you don't have to feel like you're the only one there, because a lot of times that stops us from being a part of an event is because we don't want to be the only one there. But there is beauty and there's power in being the only one there at the same time, because you stand out. And when you have the skills, people want to get to know you, and they would definitely gravitate towards you. So I'm excited to see more events like that take place. But then, I often say everyone wants to duplicate what's going on in Silicon Valley, and we just have to make sure we don't also duplicate the diversity issues that Silicon Valley has. When we're talking about programming, when we're talking about all the resources and everything that we're bringing to the city.
So how do we position ourselves to kind of address that problem? Are you saying the meetup groups, is it more of an outreach effort on the community's part to say, hey, you're included in this, let's have a seat at the table and grow together? Or what
absolutely. We have an opportunity to build our own tables, essentially, which is huge. You can't really say that for a lot of industries. You can't say, South Florida is hospitality, it's real estate, it's tourism. I think probably even medical you can kind of throw into that mix. Those things have been, ingrained in our community for a long time, so it's really hard to build your own table right now. But when you're talking about the tech ecosystem, you can absolutely build your own table. You can have a seat at the table. I think the beauty of what's being built is there's a huge focus on collaboration, and it will not work without collaboration. But we're not going to have true innovation if we don't have diversity. And we have to, it's like when you know better, you do better, right? So the ones that know what's going on, we all have a responsibility to make sure that we're educating others to make sure that they show up at these events. Because it's twofold, resources aren't going to come to our city unless they see that we want it to come to our city and come to our neighborhoods. So we need to kind of do both at the same time. But it just starts with bringing someone with you.
Exactly.
It really truly does start with that. And when you get the information, share it. It doesn't take away from anything that you're doing by sharing this information. Hey, you know, so-and-so organization has this breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning. You gotta be there. Like, come on. You know, I've always think, and I've always lived my business life and any like charitable work that we've done, the pie is big enough for everyone to get a slice. So why not bring people with you?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a great point. You are also partnering with OneCode, and I want to talk about that partnership that you're doing. Well, what is OneCode, and also how's Code Fever partnering with them?
Okay, so OneCode is essentially a coding boot camp, and they're starting, you know, schools like that are starting to open up all across the United States, really all across the world. And it is an accelerated learning of being able to learn programming. And learn the skills for the companies in South Florida that are directly needed. So I believe OneCode goes all the way up to teaching them Ruby on Rails. I think they're having to do like 20,000 lines of code by the time they're finished within the 9 weeks. So it's very intensive, very long days. It takes place at Lab Miami. The beauty of the partnership that we formed is they have like a educational reinforcement component to what they're doing. So not only do the students sit in that classroom, but they also want them to come out into the community and teach. Because one, it helps the community, it helps organizations, but then it also helps reinforce what they're learning because it's accelerated. So the value that we're getting from that partnership is their students are actually going to come and help teach our students, which will allow us to be in more places and be able to have a higher frequency in how many events that we do, which is amazing.
Yes.
But yeah, OneCode, I love what that whole trend is doing. And you know, when you talk about opportunities in our community, skill sharing is huge, and we should definitely be doing more of that. There's a lot of value in that.
Nice. So I hear a lot of partnerships going on within the tech community. What types of initiatives are there to kind of reach out to those communities that we're targeting, but sometimes, you know, maybe they don't come to events or maybe they don't know about events? What type of outreach efforts are you embarking upon?
I would love to see more, and I can only speak on what I personally know is taking place. There's a little, but there always could definitely be more. And I think like with any big movement, we would love to see it come from a top-down approach, like the government and those kind of organizations have a strategic focus on building up our communities, especially as it relates to tech, but that's just not going to happen. Right. You know, it's really coming from a bottom-up approach, so grassroots level, doing these one-off events. I would have to say a hats off to MD, Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, because they financially supported bringing Black Girls Code here, which was huge. And I think, as far as I know, that has been the only government organization that has had a direct push on tech with African American students and as well as their parents. So, and I think that's a great model. You know, when you look at that model, you had government. You have the university system with Lee Tony, who also sits on the board of MD, but being able to do that at Miami-Dade Community College Carrie Meek Center, and then you had entrepreneurs that had the resources to pull everything together. So I think when you're talking about a model that works to get more things like that here in the city, I think you kind of need that trifecta in order to make it happen. So, and then they've also funded African American entrepreneurs to have space at Lab Miami, which is huge, right? That's saving any entrepreneur that has a startup that's strapped for cash. You have free space into one of the most innovative centers in South Florida, maybe even the whole entire state of Florida. And so those kind of things that they're doing, being very forward-thinking as a government agency is huge, and people should really take note into what they're doing.
That's interesting. So from your perspective, what do you see coming down the pipeline? What's next for South Florida's tech community?
What's next? The Hyperloop or something. I don't know. There's a lot, there's a lot going on in the city, and I think I grew up in South Florida and I battled leaving. I left South Florida and I came back and thought about leaving again, but within the last 2 years, Miami has really become a city that I'm like, I don't mind staying here, right? Because there's that opportunity to help it grow. and help it turn into the city that you love, you know. And you know, from a financial standpoint, there's a lot of investor money that's coming into the city. That is a huge opportunity for the Black community. There is a lot of resources, a lot of accelerator programs, more co-working spaces are being built, innovation centers, like you name it, they're coming to South Florida. So when you're talking about what's coming through the pipeline, that's huge. As far as with Code Fever, we just got funding from Knight Foundation. So we're going to be able to do more stuff. So we have hackathons that we're going to be doing. We're working with Joey out of Atlanta to bring Goody Hack down here. So that gets the nonprofits in our community teaming up with teens and adults that can actually do some, you know, programming and build some apps and build some things to bring them to the next level from a tech standpoint. That's coming to South Florida. More of our startups in a day in our summer camps, and actually being able to team up with organizations that have the kids trying to figure out what to do and get them engaged, and being able to bring that programming to them. We have that. So there's a lot coming to the city.
Okay.
Code Now is now, you know, they've recently got Knight funded. So they have funding to train 60 minority students on how to code. And that's a huge program. So there's things that are starting to come.
Okay.
You know, the excitement is definitely there. Microsoft is getting ready to build an innovation center at Venture High.
Wow.
So, you know, things are starting to pop up. Facebook opened their office here, you know, late last year. So, yeah, it's a cool time to be.
Wow, very nice.
We just got to make sure that we take advantage of those opportunities, and that we hold those organizations accountable for making sure that they invest in our communities from a human capital standpoint. But then also, you know, the big brain drain is like the question that you always hear, and or the issue that is kind of always brought up of, you know, we have the talent, but they're leaving because the jobs aren't here.
Right.
And I'm like, you know, we have the talent in Overtown. We have the talent in Liberty City. You know, most of them, if they're in college and they're going to college, they're commuter students. So they're going to school, they're coming back home, they're looking for a job here in South Florida, and they will stay because they have close family ties. So these are the people that can solve our brain drain problem. So now it's a point of making sure that we're allocating resources, dollars, and training into training them. And then being patient, because it's going to take a few years, but they will now be our qualified and overqualified workforce from a tech standpoint in order to fill the jobs that are coming to South Florida.
Okay, and then also create their own jobs.
Yes,
Right.
You don't forget to say that. Absolutely, I'll create their own jobs and really help us with these crazy unemployment numbers that we have in South Florida. Insane employment numbers that we have in South Florida.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, that is the biggest thing of making sure that our communities are self-sustainable. And I think it could be a very easy approach, and I'm just a very overly optimistic person. But I think sometimes when we look at problems, we complicate them more than they have to be. And education across the board, no matter how you get it, is the beginning steps to solving any problem. And when you have an educated community, change starts to happen. You know, a lot of change starts to happen all the way around, and that's what we need.
Nice. Nice. So lastly, how are we following up with people that go through these accelerator programs, the coding programs? Is there any follow-up with them?
Yes, so that has been like, you know, the big kind of question, and especially when it relates to tech education. So at one point in time, everyone was excited about hackathons. We got to do a hackathon, blah, blah, blah. So people would get all excited. They would form these teams. They would build something, and then the follow-up and the follow-through, who knew what happened? With us, what we've started to put in place is, again, the partnerships have helped out. So, you know, getting free, we're making our own videos right now, so coding videos, programming and robotics videos with really energetic and excited African American and Caribbeans that are teaching our kids how to code. So when they go online and after they leave one of our workshops or leave one of our camps, they can actually continue learning by someone that looks like them and can relate to them and kind of speaks their same language. Those are the reinforcements that we have. Partnerships with like General Assembly that we're forming in order to get them more training that they need virtually, so that not only can they sit at the computer, but then their parents can sit at the computer as well. And then again, with the partnership we have with Knight Foundation now, allowing us to do things on a more frequent basis. So they're not just like, coming 1 month and then nothing for 2 months. It's something that's going to happen every single weekend, so that they can be engaged, and it can be something that's going to follow them for the 4 years that they're in high school. Nice. Especially with it relates to South Florida Cares partnership.
Nice.
So partnerships are huge,
yes.
Because it just allows you to work better and smarter, and collaborating with other organizations to make it happen. It's just a no-brainer. It's something that has to be done, because we're essentially in a state of emergency when we're talking about not just our kids but our adults, and getting them engaged into tech. We understand what rappers make. We understand what
ball players,
make, and honestly, I think those sectors get a very bad rap, because I was recently reading an article that talked about how sports actually invest in their kids, where other industries don't invest in the kids. Mm-hmm. You're talking about from Pop Warner and whatever community football they're playing in, and the mentorship that they get from there, the programming that's available for them to easily jump into on a Saturday or throughout the school year, going into school, but then that pipeline into college. If we're really going to try and get our kids into STEM and engage, we have to build the exact same thing and make sure that they understand what that trajectory is. Mm-hmm. No one likes to talk about the money, and I don't understand why.
Right.
Because that is what kids and their parents are attracted to about football and rapping. Most kids don't want to rap. Most kids don't really want to play basketball or football, but they want what that represents.
Well, yes.
And they can get those exact same thing by focusing on getting the hard skills and going back to vocational training. But we need to really market it the same way they do. And then that's how it becomes attractive to kids and their parents.
Nice. Very true. So we're about to wrap up here, but is there anything else you'd like to cover? Anything else that you'd like to talk about?
No, I think that
we've covered it all. Yes.
No,
that was wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for your insight and your points of action, and we'll keep it moving.
All right.
Thank you.
Good fight, all right?